Hi, I just wanted to give a quick response to a Instagram clip I saw. It was sent by friends from Texas that are great supporters of Israel. And they were shocked when they saw this video clip. There are those out there that are trying to demonize the people of Israel, our Talmud. And the point of this video clip was to claim that the teachings that the Jewish people are taught from our Talmud are grotesque and they contain poisonous teachings, etc., etc. And right away, when I was asked to respond to this, I had mixed feelings if I even waste my breath, because the people out there that are creating these kind of things have one goal in mind: is to stir up anti-Semitism, and will it really help to try to respond in a normal fashion? And these people are irrational and just looking for hatred and to demonize. But nevertheless, I'm doing it for those young minds who may have questions and understanding. And first, I'd like to quickly mention what the Talmud is. The Talmud is a collection of thousands of you can call sugyot, different areas. It's many pages, thousands of pages of oral teachings that is the basis of our oral law. The oral law was something that originally was meant to be taught orally, but it was written down after the destruction of the Second Temple, during the period of the Amoraim. Great scholars, Ravina Ravashi, decided to gather it all together and write it down in words instead of everything being said by heart, memorized, only because of the fear and the danger that the Torah will be forgotten in exile. Now, the Talmud has many different types of discussions. Many are regarding our Jewish law, and others are regarding Jewish philosophy and the way of thinking, and every different possible realm you could come up with and think about. And here in this clip, there were ridiculous statements made that were totally taking quotes from the Talmud, either distorting them or even making things up that don't even exist, and making it seem real by quoting page numbers and even they mentioned a book of Talmud that doesn't exist. There's no book called God. What do you call it? God Shas. One of the sources they bring down is God Shas. There's nothing like it. It doesn't exist at all. But nevertheless, they try to mix it up to try to create this atmosphere that the Talmud is full of these hateful remarks towards the Gentile. And I want to explain in one word. First of all, if we say in Hebrew, the mifchan totza'ah, the test of the result. What does that concept mean? Is that if we look at the people of Israel, and we look how the people of Israel are very, very liberal by nature, and reach out and have been involved in the most active way to try to stand up for human rights, etc., etc. So we know that that's ingrained in the people of Israel to be a kind and good-natured people, and to come out with statements that are claiming that the Jewish people look at the non-Jew as beasts and subhumans or dogs. I mean, literally things that you can't believe what was said, is totally a lie. It's just a big lie. And this right away brought me back to the Middle Ages. If you look, we can go back even before I go back to the Middle Ages, let's go back to the times of the Talmud, even in the times of the Mishnah, our oral law. We've had martyrs of Israel like Rabbi Hananya ben Tradion, one of the great scholars of Israel, was wrapped in a Torah scroll and burnt to death alive, and they put sponges on his heart to try to keep him alive more, to suffer more, with the Torah wrapped around him. That was the relationship towards the Torah. And of course, we go back to hatred towards Israel. It goes way back. It begins in Egypt when Paro comes along and says, the Jewish people are growing and multiplying, they're going to run away or damage us, and then they began to enslave Israel. It goes back from the beginning of our history as the people of Israel. But if we look in the Middle Ages, we see particularly attack against the Talmud. We know in 1242, and the story of the burning of the Talmud goes like this: that in 1236. There was a monk named Nicholas Donin, who was a mumar. Mumar is someone who converted to Catholicism, a Jewish mumar, and he became the worst enemy of Israel. And he goes and he writes a letter to the Pope Gregory the Ninth, and he claims that there are many sources in the Talmud. I think he quoted 35 sources where he found were insulting, etc. And it took 3 years for the Pope to write back, and he writes back and he makes a decision that the Talmud is going to go on trial. The Pope turns to King Louis the Ninth of France, and he agrees to cooperate. And they take 4 rabbis, distinguished rabbis. 2 of the very famous ones are Rabbi Yechiel Paris and Rav Moshe Mikotsk, and they are putting the Talmud on trial, and the rabbis are debating on behalf of the Talmud, and the decision is made that they're going to burn the Talmud, and 24 carts, wagons of manuscripts of the Talmud were brought out and burned and destroyed, and many of those ancient manuscripts, they can't be recovered all. You have to recall that's before the printing press, so they were handwritten. And this was the doings of that evil Nicholas Donin and the Epiphio, the Pope, that made those decisions. It's an example. As a matter of fact, we just commemorated this past Sunday the destruction of our 2 temples. And one of the lamentations we read, we sit on the floor, and we're not allowed to sit on a chair for half the day, from the night until noontime. And we read lamentations. Very, very sad historical poems that were written and about the terrible things that befell the Jewish people throughout the ages. And one of them was written by Rav Meir Rottenberg. He was a student of Rabbi Yechiel Paris. He was a student. And he witnessed the burning of the Talmud. And he writes that lamentation. And that has become part of our regular reading every year on the day we commemorate the destruction of our temples. It wasn't only then, it was in the 1500s in Italy, in Venice, there were a couple of burnings of the Talmud as well. And this continues, of course. And I don't have to talk about the Nazi Germany of Kristallnacht in 1933 on November 9th, when they burnt down synagogues and Torah scrolls, and Talmuds were burnt. And we know where that led to the killing, the murdering. That same day on the Kristallnacht, they destroyed most of the synagogues of Germany, and around 1,500 Jews were murdered. And of course, that led to the worst atrocities of Nazi Germany, of Hitler's final solution. So these is just small examples. And there are many, many more throughout history. If you just look and read history, people are so ignorant. They come around and they think they're going to start announcing and denouncing the Talmud without any knowledge. And they're going to come along and they're going to, what is the point? What are they trying to do? Because they are ignorant and totally have no understanding of what Talmud's all about. And their goal is one thing in mind, to create an atmosphere of anti-Semitism and to cause hatred against the Jews, and God forbid, the cost of Jewish lives. These kind of things is what happened in pre-Nazi Germany, as we just mentioned. And these kind of things eventually lead to murdering of innocent people. What's fascinating is the rabbis, after that whole tragedy, and as we mentioned in Paris and the burning of the Talmud, the decision was, we have to make Aliyah. We have to move to Israel. We can't remain in exile anymore. And that was in the dark Middle Ages. They decided that the only future is to go home, although it wasn't so simple in those days. Now, getting back to the whole general thing, and I don't want to go into particular details of each of those ridiculous statements made, that the way the Jews relate to the non-Jews, there are lies, pure lies over there, and distortions. And anyone who has a true question about a particular Talmudic passage, well, as a rabbi that has been around for a while, I'm willing to try to answer and help anybody who has a true question of clarification, because that's the beauty. There's one word that's more popular than any other word in the Talmud, and that's different words for questions and asking and questioning things. As Jews, we question all the time, and I'll be happy to try to respond and answer to any difficult question that you may have, but that's on a one-on-one where I can explain it. Because people nowadays, they can shoot off their mouths very quickly, but there's very little listening being done. People don't have patience to listen, to try to truly research something. It's like someone want to compare to Albert Einstein after coming out. By the way, the Germans burnt his books. And by the way, that when he comes out with a theory of relativity, so someone walks over to him and says, something, explain to me the theory of relativity. And why I'm standing on one foot. Obviously, things are complicated and difficult. The Talmud is something extremely, extremely, very, very, very deep and involved. It requires tremendous, tremendous understanding and knowledge to find person's way in the Talmud. And when people are out of ignorance or rattling off all kinds of statements, they should be talking to rabbis and not to ignorant people that never learned anything about the Talmud really in their lives. So anyway, I want to open again. I'll repeat this. As anyone has a true question, I'll be happy to answer it on a one-on-one. And I'll end with a blessing. I just want to say, may God bless those who seek the truth, those who really want to know the right path in this world. And God bless those who want to bring good to the world and bring light to the world. Those are the kind of friends I want to have, not those who try to create an atmosphere of hatred and destruction. Shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom.